This is Roger Simon.
And Lionel Chetwynd.
Welcome back to Poliwood for a special scandal show because the new book has hit England called The House of Redgrave, about the Redgrave family.
Yes.
That sort of makes the Hollywood left seem like William F. Buckley by comparison. And,
in terms of lifestyle, certainly.
Lifestyle and, politics maybe. One of the big notable things in the book is it reveals that Vanessa Redgrave, at I guess the age of 21 or so, walked in on her husband, Tony Richardson, the director that I knew, in bed with her father, Sir Michael Redgrave.
Who's quoted as saying, "I love him, you love him, what's the problem, darling?"
You're right.
That's a father, right? And it's all things like that. It's a Socialist Workers' Party, which you could talk about. Well, if you want to see what happens when people make their own moral universe, under any excuse, because they are born to it or because they're artists, read this book. It is horrible. It's not, I mean, yeah, that's a high spot, coming in, finding your dad in bed with your husband. But everyone is sleeping with everyone.
Well, it went on in the political sphere. In the political sphere, it was really interesting because these details I sort of vaguely knew. But in 1969, after I think she'd won an Oscar at that point, Vanessa and Corin, led by Corin, had joined WRP, the Workers' Revolutionary Party, a small Trotskyite group that was a cult. Yeah, it was a cult led by this guy, Jerry Healy. It was revealed shortly thereafter that Healy kept about 24 red sex slaves in their mansion, sort of like Manson. Yeah. And then Vanessa and Corin sort of waved it off. They said, that's not important. The revolution is important. I mean...
No, and with saner minds within the party, threw Healy out, they formed another party, which was the Socialist Party, the Marx Party, the Marxist Party, because they were loyal.
Not the Marx Party,
because you must be loyal to your sort, Right. I mean, look, Roger, is she a great artist? I don't know. I have trouble watching her because of my own confrontation with over Fania Fenelon, the concentration camp survivor whose films in which she wanted to star, and I was appalled that they would dress her in. Those are sacred clothes, the camps, and why an anti-Semite. And by the way, be very clear, the Redgraves are not simply anti-Zionist, as she likes to say. They don't like Jews. But that's okay, because that's what the English upper class is. I mean,
Back from Norwich.
Yeah, right, exactly right. And of course, these are the people that our own artists worship.
Oh, look, Vanessa, and I met her, and she was quite pleasant at the time, and, I met her on a couple of occasions. But they were worshipped in this culture here. I mean, Hollywood, the Redgraves, all of them, and Lynn, who deserved praise because she's a decent person.
I knew Lynn. I directed Lynn in Variance War. She was the most wonderful, marvelous person with not a trace of narcissism about her. She was funny, she was amusing, and there were moments of great tension on the set because one of the actors having a meltdown, and she absolutely stepped in. She was wonderful. And that is what marked her different from all these other people. It's not about, I'm an artist, I make my own moral universe, says Woody Allen, and it's not about that at all. I'm a narcissist, and therefore I think I can get away with it.
I can do anything I want.
That's the truth.
Now, let's ask a more serious question. The streams of the Redgraves and walking in on your husband with your father, I mean, that's off the table, or it's in a Greek play.
I love it,
And in the Greek drama version, Vanessa would have picked up a knife and stabbed them both. And it was some justification.
And then gouged her eyes out.
Gouged her eyes out, right, and walked up to the stage, and the chorus would have talked about pity and terror and all the other things. But lots of artists that we do revere and are more important than the Redgraves because, after all, they're only interpretive artists. Someone like Oscar Wilde, who wrote amazing stuff, lived, let's say, outre lives. To what degree do you give them license? To what degree, in the more important question, does someone have to sample life in order to interpret it?
There are two, I think, separate questions. In the run-up to yours, or thereafter, it's important to ask, does discretion play any part in this? Oscar Wilde was a flamboyant character, did a lot of things, but was essentially discreet about what he did and how he went about it. Norman Mailer, no. Woody Allen, no. Do you have to sample life on the lower levels in order to be an artist? Possibly it helps. I don't know. I mean, I don't think so. I mean, I don't know what the lives are talking about our own business. great artists like Frank Capra or John Sturgis or all these people we admire, or Bob. I mean, Fosse was fairly open about his failure to maintain long-term relationships. Here's the deal: there's a line between experiencing life and playing on the naughty, of being naughty, and being sordid and tawdry, and then having the nerve to stand up and say, "I'm a political avatar." That's what usually irritating about
I couldn't agree with you more about the political avatar part of it. Now, speaking of political avatars, we didn't talk about this in the warm-up show, to our show, but I want to ask you a question and wrap up with this because it's right in the news now. The Tony Kushner story. Tony Kushner, the Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright of Angels in America, blah, 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 was going to get an award, an honorary prize at the City University of New York. They cut it off because of his anti-Zionism, anti-Semitism. Now they're awarding him the award again. What do you think of all this?
When you give someone an honorary degree, you are making a statement about their worthiness to the student body, what you want to be like. It is not merely that he is anti-Semitic or anti-Israel. It is that he is an intellectual bigot and therefore not a worthy example of someone to a student body. The very recent article by Bret Stephens in the Wall Street Journal, where he talks about Noam Chomsky, a similar reprobate, lowlife, intellectual bigot of the worst order. Look at that snarl, right there. And he compares it to Heidegger. After the war, the Allies said Heidegger, one of the great philosophers of the 20th century, would not be allowed to teach. And Bret Stephens says that is because he had the confidence to distinguish between what is right and what is wrong in teaching our children. The relativism with which we now live is outrageous. Tony Kushner is not even that great a playwright as far as I can see. I'm not sure where that body of work entitles him to any kind of praise. But he is not worthy, and it belittles CCNY, and give him all the freedom of speech he wants. I'm not against that. But to hold him up as an example to our youth, an intellectual bigot, that's the only expression I can think of. In short, I think it's a terrible idea.
Well, it's interesting because I just hate the idea of honorary degrees anyway. I think they're all pompous and ridiculous and so devalued and politically motivated almost 90% of the time, except for I understand you won one. So that's
yes, but I didn't get a prescription pad with my doctorate, so it was.
Well. Yeah. Anyway, since I've never won one, I can afford to diss them. I recommend to everyone they read Ron Radausch's column on Pajamas Media, all about the Kushner putative award. Anyway, as for the definitive statement about Vanessa Redgrave and family, I'll give you mine.
Right. I wanted to read the book, take a shower. Better still read the book in the shower.
This is Roger Simon.
And Lionel Chetwynd.
Next week in Poliwood.